Namaste. Welcome. My name is Janapati Das, and we're here for the Bhagavad Gita as it is class. Please accept my respects. I'd like to offer my respectful obeisances unto Jagaguru Siddhaswara Bhananda Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada, my dear Gurudev and life and soul, and unto my spiritual grandfather. I pray for my protection from him, protection by him, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who translated the Bhagavad Gita as it is and purported upon it, that we are going to read today from chapter 2. So, first of all, as instructed, one of the greatest acts of service to your spiritual master and to Krishna is to chant the names of Krishna in Kirtan. This is the greatest service you can do for humanity at large as well. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Jiname Namo Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Jiname Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Bhakta Vrinda Haribo Nitai Gaur Nitai Gaur Haribo Haribo Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Haribo, Haribo, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Gaur, Haribo, Haribo, Nitai Gaur, Nitai Haribo. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Haribo. So, been a little while, a couple weeks. And we are continuing on with our saga in the Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna is now instructing Arjuna. I grabbed the wrong Bhagavad Gita, but I'll just find where it is. We were on text chapter 2, text 29. And Krishna is explaining the nature, first making it very clear that the living entity is neither his body nor his mind. The body is subject to destruction, to changes, to birth, disease, old age, and death, and the mind as well. But this soul, the spirit soul, the jivatma, the living entity within the body, is not subjected to the same. And these are these descriptions about how, the soul is not withered by the wind or destroyed by fire or broken into pieces like the body can be, but is actually continuous, eternal, consistent, everything opposite of really what the body is about. So text 29, chapter 2, the Roman transliteration of the Sanskrit. Ascharyaat pashyati kashit anam ascharya vadati tataiva chanyaha ascharya vachchainam anyaha shrunoti shruptvapi etam etnam veda na chaiva kashit. Translations. Ascharyaat, amazing. Ascharyavat. That's an amazing word. Pashyati, see. Kashit, some. Enam, this. Ascharyavat, amazing. In other words, amazing again. Vadati, speak. Tafta, there. Eva, certainly. Cha, also. Anyaha, others. Ascharyavat, similarly amazing. Cha, also. Enam, this soul. It could be a pretty amazing name. Ascharyavat, as the baby's name. Anya, others. Shrunoti, hear. Shrutva, having heard. Eva, even. Enam, the soul. Veda, do know. Na, never. Cha, and. Eva, certainly. Kashit, anyone. And it's interesting, when you come across these Sanskrit words, like the Vedas have to do with absolute knowledge. And here you have Veda, do know. To know is really what the Veda means. So when you have empirical science, which is not really Veda, it's actually more about measuring and trying to analyze material energy. And a lot of it is speculative. It's based on theories and observation. And the observation is not like Veda, because in Veda, it's the absolute truth coming from Sri Krishna. It is the absolute truth, and Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so therefore everything that comes, all knowledge that comes from him is perfectly intact. But the speculative knowledge of empirical science is based on senses, on the material senses, which are subjected to faulty conclusions, to say the least. A lot of times, for example, I got up last night to use the bathroom, and I got back in bed thinking with my senses that I was in the right part of the bed, but I actually was at the bottom of the bed at a different angle. Proceeded to flop down onto the bed, but was halfway off the bed already and fell out of bed and hit my head. So that's, that's what our senses are subjected to, making mistakes all the time. So here's the translation of text 29. Some is amazing verse. Some look on the soul as amazing. Some describe him as amazing. And some hear of him as amazing. While others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. And this is an amazing verse because Bhaktivedanta cited one time that he used to talk to everybody, people of different faiths, scientists, professors, anyone who would come to talk to him, world leaders, he would talk to about bhakti yoga, really, and compare it to whatever. And he there was a conversation he had one time with a bunch of different Russian and European scientists, and these are supposedly the most learned people of the planet. They're scientists, they're highly educated in material science, and they were one of these people who could not understand the nature of the soul. Even though Bhaktivedanta was explaining it very clearly to them, it was so over their head. They just could not fathom that we were nothing but, we were something other than chemicals and chemical reactions. But this is what I said, when the people are brought the knowledge of the science of identity, they're amazed by the nature of that, how the living entity can animate the body, how it provides basically everything in the universe. It holds up the universe. It is the energy of the Supreme. Some describe him as amazing, some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So this is Krishna explaining to Arjuna, some people just don't even understand this, but this is a reality. So the purport: since Gita Upanishad is largely based on the principles of Upanishads, it is not surprising to also find this passage in the Katha Upanishad. Shravana yapi bahubir yo labhyaha Shravanto pi bhavo yaha navijuhu Ascharo bhaktyos kushala sha labda Ascharo gnata kushala nushishta. The fact that the atomic soul is within the body of a gigantic animal, in the body of a gigantic banyan tree, and also in the microbic germs, millions of billions, which occupy only an inch of space, is certainly very amazing. So the living entity is of the same, it can exist within very large material bodies like whales, elephants or whatever, and it can at the same time be in the body of a microbe, but it's still able to occupy it. This is what's really amazing. Men with poor fund of knowledge and men who are not austere cannot understand the wonders of the individual atomic spark of spirit, even though it is explained by the greatest authority of knowledge, who imparted lessons even to Brahma, the first being in the universe. So, a couple things to take home there. Guru is one. That's one thing. Krishna is the original guru, but through the lineages of spiritual masters all the way down to my spiritual master, they are telling this Veda, this absolute truth, handed down, unchanged, this information. Very straightforward, very, is explained by the greatest authority of knowledge. Bhaktivedanta is the greatest authority of knowledge. He was explaining to these so-called learned scientists who know mathematics to like the T. They're like super calculus, whatever, mathematicians and scientists, and they've studied biology and evolution and all these kinds of things, and they cannot understand a very basic fact that you're not your body, you're not your mind. Because they are, despite having so much material knowledge, they really have what Bhaktivedanta terms as a poor fund of knowledge. Real knowledge, this Vedic knowledge, the knowledge of the absolute truth. And so many people that are so-called learned You know, everybody wants to be an authority in this day and age with, you know, the internet and chat GPT and AI and whatnot, pumping out so much information. Where are the people who are the ones with the great fund of knowledge? Not very many, actually. There's lots of people who with so-called material knowledge, and they can probably convince you about mathematics and science, but they have no entryway into the absolute truth. This amazing thing. Only the great authorities of knowledge, the pure lovers of Krishna, are able to understand this. So men, look at the soul proper. Okay, owing to its gross material conception of things, most men in this age cannot imagine how such a small particle can become both so great and so small. Men look at the soul proper as wonderful either by constitution or by description. Illusioned by the material energy, people are so engrossed in the subject matter for sense gratification that they have very little time to understand the question of self-understanding, even though it is a fact that without the self-understanding, all activities result in ultimate defeat in the struggle for existence. So much is put into this, you know, material knowledge for the purpose of gaining sense gratification, even though they know that it's going to come to an end, and what goes beyond that they either don't know or they completely deny that it exists, because it's just too painful to realize you've wasted your life trying to pursue a phantasmagoria, right, or will-o-wisp. Perhaps one has no idea that one must think of the soul and also make a solution of the material miseries. There's a great verse I just read in the Srimad Bhagavatam too about the fact that Bhaktivedanta was explaining that the world is full of questions and answers. In material science and material existence, people are everything is about questions and answers, but there is no real solution to, and the answers or the solutions to these questions that are being proposed have no real solution. The real solution is Krishna, as my dear Guru Dev would say. Everything existing and non-existing in the world and out of the world is existing in the syllables Krishna. So the greatest answer to all questions is Krishna. And the greatest solution for all problems is Krishna. Nothing else. Nothing else. Nothing else really. You know, we have so many problems. How do we deal with the Palestinian problem? Krishna. How do we stop a war between Iran and the United States and Israel? Krishna. You know, is it better to be a Democrat or a Republican? Krishna. Is it right to give people, children, change their gender? Krishna. You know, it's like all answers. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Some people who are inclined to hear about the soul may be attending lectures, good association, but sometimes owing to ignorance, they are misguided by acceptance of the super soul and the atomic soul as one without distinction of magnitude. Basically just saying that, okay, maybe we understand we're not our body, we're not our soul, but that actually the conclusion that many people will come being past that step, past the material science, is that it is all one. We are actually God, you know. And that's a pretty popular conclusion, but not really truth. Krishna, kitty cat. You come in? Krishna. Krishna. You gonna come in? Krishna. Haribol. Yeah, come in. All right, I guess I'll leave the door open for you. Nita, my cat. All right, so continuing on. It is very difficult to find a man who perfectly understands the position of the soul, the super soul, the atomic soul, their respective functions, relationships, and all of their major and minor details. And it is still more difficult to find a man who has actually derived full benefit from the knowledge of the soul and who is able to the position of the soul, describe the position of the soul in different aspects. So all these things can be understood by the spiritual master, the absolute authority of this knowledge. So once again, the poor fund of knowledge coming from the so-called material scientists, they cannot explain any of these things. They don't even believe it exists. Like Francis Crick, the great so-called father of DNA, discovered the DNA, concluded trying to find the self, could not find the self, and concluded that nobody really actually exists. And he wrote a book, Francis Crick, who doesn't exist, wrote a book that doesn't exist and told people that they don't exist, who sold the book to other people who don't exist. It's really crazy. Yeah. But if somehow or other one is able to understand the subject matter of the soul, then one's life is successful. There we go. The easiest process for understanding the subject matter of self, however, is to accept the statements of the Bhagavad Gita spoken by the greatest authority, the original spiritual master, Lord Sri Krishna, without being deviated by other theories. And this is why the Bhagavad Gita is called Bhagavad Gita as it is, because there are many people who translate the Bhagavad Gita with the wrong intentions and their own personal theories that are completely wrong. But it also requires a great deal of penance and sacrifice, either in this life or in the previous ones, before one is able to accept Krishna as a supreme personality of Godhead. Krishna can, however, be known as such by the causeless mercy of the pure devotee and by no other way. So by the grace of the spiritual master, one is able to understand about the soul, the relationship of the soul, and Sri Krishna. Text 30. Dehi nityam advadyoyam dehe shavashabalata tashman shavani bhutani natvam shochitum arhashi. Excuse me. Dehi, the owner of the material body, nityam, eternally, avadya, cannot be killed, ayam, this soul, dehe, in the body, sarvasha, of everyone, Bharat, O descendant of Bharat, Tasmat, therefore, Sarvani, all, Bhutani, living entities that are born, Na, never, Tvam, yourselves, Sochitum, to lament, Arhashi, deserve. So here we have Shochitum, right? Another word for lament. O descendant of Bharat, he who dwells in the body is eternal and can never be slain, therefore you need not grieve for any creature. So concluding that basically he's telling Arjuna all the living entities on these are brilliant, undestroyable spirit souls who are temporarily in this body, and there's no need to grieve for the body of these people. There's no need to grieve for any creature. Actually, all living entities are eternal, whether they're in the body of a cockroach or a cat or a demigod or a human. Purport. The Lord now concludes the chapter of instruction on the immutable spirit soul. In describing the immortal soul in various ways, Lord Krishna establishes that the soul is immortal and the body is temporary. Okay, so that's a very, very drastic and significant philosophy. It's more than these so-called scientists of poor funds of knowledge actually have. You are not the body. The body is temporary. It's subject to destruction. You are actually a living entity that is eternally the same and eternally a servant of Krishna. That's amazing philosophy, actually. That changes everything. It did for me. Therefore, Arjuna, as a Kshatriya, should not abandon his duty out of fear that his grandfather and teacher Bhishma and Drona will die in the battle. So it also states everything about our own mortality, that we all have to face death or the death of loved ones. And should be no fear, because those living entities will continue on past this body. So they may be suffering in this existence of old age or whatever, maybe a car accident or cancer or whatever. But that's a temporary. The body is temporary. It will fall apart, but that person will not die. They will continue. And it's a conversation I had with, a relative about my brother, about the very same information. He was fearful and sad that my father had died and that he is gone. And I said, well, he's not gone. His body's gone, but he's not gone. On the authority of Sri Krishna, one has to believe that there is a soul different from the material body, not that there is no such thing as soul, or that living symptoms develop at a certain stage of material maturity resulting in the interaction of chemicals. So this is sort of a popular concept, and my spiritual master has sort of gone over this many, many times, citing examples from people like Carl Sagan, who famously said that he was a collection of different molecules with the label Carl Sagan, and that we are the same collection of molecules with a different label, basically citing that we are just chemicals. But even in science, even in material science, you can disprove that, because the body changes consistently. The molecules are replaced every 3 to 5 years in the body completely. And if you were those chemicals, then you would have been gone, but you are the same person, and your chemicals are the same. Therefore, you are not this. You are not the molecules, and this is not who you are. But people who are so-called learned are actually poor fund of knowledge. Haughtily propound these philosophies. Though the soul is immortal, violence is not encouraged, but at a time of war it is not discouraged when there is actual need for it. That need must be justified in terms of sanction of the Lord and not capriciously. Text 31. Svadharma api shavek sha navikam pitum arhashi dharmyadi yudhat shareo nyat kshatriyasha na vidyate. Svadharmam, one's own religious principles. Api, also. Cha, indeed. Avikshya, considering. Na, never. Vikyam pitum, to hesitate. Arhashi, you deserve. Dharmyat, from religious principles. He, indeed. Yudat, of fighting. Shreyaha, better engagements. Anyat, anything else. Kshatriyasya, of the kshatriya. Na, does not. Vidyate, exist. Translation, text 31. Considering your specific duty as a kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles, so there is no need for hesitation. So he's reinstating his duty, the service that he has as a kshatriya warrior, to fight, and not only fight, but to fight these for religious principles, which is really what this battle is about, because the Battle of Kurukshetra was truly a holy war. It was a religious war. Out of the 4 orders of social administration, the second order for the matter of good administration is called kshatriya. Kshatriya means hurt. Kshat means hurt. One who gives protection from harm is called kshatriya. Trayate, to give protection. So kshatriyas were protecting always. They were administrators, they were righteous kings, they defended the people from wild animals and whatnot. It says here, kshatriyas are trained for killing in the forest. Kshatriya would go into the forest and challenge a tiger face to face and fight the tiger with his sword. When the tiger was killed, it would be offered the royal order of cremation. The system is being followed even up to the present day of the Kshatriya kings of the Jaipur state. The Kshatriyas are specifically trained for challenging and killing because religious violence is sometimes a necessary factor. Therefore, Kshatriyas are never meant for accepting directly the order of sannyasa or renunciation. So that was, it wasn't really proper for the Kshatriya to be a renunciate. Nonviolence in politics may be a diplomacy, but is never a factor or principle. In the religious law books, it is stated, Abheshu mito, nyoinam, jigam shanto mahi kshashita, yudamana, param shaktya shavargam, yanti aparam mukyaha, ayajneshu pashyado, Brahman hanyante satatam divijihi samskritya kila mantrayis chate pi svaragam avapununva. In the battlefield, a king or kshatriya, while fighting another king envious of him, is eligible for achieving heavenly planets after death, as the Brahmanas also attained the heavenly planets by sacrificing animals in the sacrificial fire. Therefore, killing on the religious principle and the killing of animals in the sacrificial fire are not at all considered to be acts of violence, because everyone is benefited by the religious principles involved. The animal sacrificed gets a human life immediately without undergoing the gradual evolutionary process from one form to another. So this was a system, it's not really practiced in Kali Yuga so much, but because when the living entity takes on a lower form of life, and by nature they are evolving upward to a human form of life. So they may go from one really low form of life, like a bug, to a bird, to, and this is what they're doing. But an animal sacrificed will actually be evolved quicker, maybe even to a human form of life back in the days. Religious ceremonies. And the kshatriya. Okay, there are two kinds of svadharmas, specific duties. As long as one is not liberated, one has to perform the duties of that particular body in accordance with religious principles in order to achieve liberation. When one is liberated, one's svadharma, specific duty, becomes spiritual and is not in the material bodily concept. In the bodily conception of life, there are specific duties for the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas respectively, and such duties are unavoidable. Svadharma is ordained by the Lord, and this will be clarified in the 4th chapter. On the bodily plane, Svadharma is called Varnashram Dharma, or man's stepping stone for spiritual understanding. Human civilization begins from the stage of Varnashram Dharma, or specific duties in terms of the specific modes of nature of the body obtained. So that's a very big subject, Vedic system. Discharging one specific duty in any field of action in accordance with Varnashram Dharma serves to elevate one to a higher status of life. One can actually supersede all that by chanting Krishna's names directly. In this age of Kali, we don't follow the Varnashram system because it doesn't really apply so much, and we're such a fallen souls in this age that we're given a very simple process by Lord Chaitanya of chanting his names. Text 32. Yatraya kopa panam svarga dvaram apavrityam shukina kshatriya partha labante yudam iturishyam. Yatriyaya, by its own accord. Cha, also upapanam, arrived at. Svarga, heavenly planets. Dvaryam, door. Apavritam, wide open. Shukinaha, very happy. Kshatriya, members of the royal order. Partha, O son of Pritha. Labante, do achieve. Yudam, war. Dishram, like this. O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom the fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. As supreme teacher of the world, Lord Krishna condemns the attitude of Arjuna, who says, I do not find any good in this fighting. It will cause perpetual habitation in hell. Such statements by Arjuna were due to ignorance only. He wanted to become non-violent in the discharge of his specific duty. For a Kshatriya to be in the battlefield and to become non-violent is the philosophy of fools. In the Parashara Smriti, or religious codes made by Parashara, the great sage and father of Vyasadeva, it is stated, Kshatriya hi praja rakshan shastra panihi pradantyayan nirjitya parashain yadi kashitim dharmena palayet. The Kshatriya's duty is to protect the citizens from all kinds of difficulties, and for that reason he has to apply violence in suitable cases for law and order. Therefore, he has to conquer the soldiers of inimical kings, and thus with religious principles he should rule over the world. So it was understood that not all people are going to be on the same page with, some people are acting very selfishly and cause problems, and the Kshatriya's duty is to keep people in line by killing them, getting rid of them. That's what a warrior does. Warrior's not like a pacifist, right? He uses his fighting abilities intelligently, but not as a pacifist. Considering all aspects, Arjuna had no reason to refrain from fighting. If he should conquer his enemies, he would enjoy the kingdom, and if he should die in the battle, he would be elevated to the heavenly planets, whose doors were wide open to him. Fighting would be for his benefit in either case. So Krishna, of course, is making more material arguments about, the Kshatriya caste as well. Text 33. Ata chetvam imam dharmyam sangramam na karlishyashi tata swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyashi. Ata, therefore, chet, if, tvam, you, imam, this, dharmyam, religious duty, sangramam, fighting, na, do not, kalishyashi, perform, tataha, then, svadharmam, your religious duty, kirtim, reputation, cha, also, hitva, losing, papam, sinful reaction, apapsyashi, do gain. Translation: if, however, you do not fight this religious war, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties, and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. So he's saying, basically reinstating that people are going to make fun of them, and it's just so weird for a Kshatriya to leave and go off and be a yogi or a Brahmin or whatever. Arjuna was a famous fighter, and he attained fame by fighting many great demigods, including even Lord Shiva. After fighting and defeating Lord Shiva in the dress of a hunter, Arjuna pleased the Lord and received as a reward a weapon called the Pashupata Astra. Everyone knew that he was a great warrior. Even Dronacharya gave him benediction and awarded him the special weapon by which he could kill even his teacher. So he was credited with so many military certificates from many authorities, including his adopted father Indra, the heavenly king. But if he abandoned the battle, he would not only neglect his specific duty as a Kshatriya, but he would lose all his fame and good name, and thus prepare his royal road to hell. In other words, he would go to hell, not by fighting, but by withdrawing from battle. So, let's see. I guess we're going to read one more verse. Text 34. Akirtam achapi bhutani kata yishyanti te vayayam sambhavit tasya chakirtir maranad atili chate. Akirtam, infamy, cha, also, api, over and above, bhutani, all people, kata yishyanti, will speak, Te, of you, avyayam, forever, sambhavitasya, for respectable man, cha, also, akirtihi, ill fame, malanat, then death, atirichyate, becomes more than. Translation: people will always speak of your infamy, and for one who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. So this is true about the Kshatriya, of course. Nothing was worse than losing your honor. I mean, you think about like people in their honor nowadays, it's nothing compared to what Kshatriyas were. If you were dishonored, it was a big deal. Both as friend and philosopher to Arjuna, Lord Krishna now gives his final judgment regarding Arjuna's refusal to fight. The Lord says, Arjuna, if you leave the battlefield, people will call you a coward even before your actual flight. And if you think that people may call you bad names, but that you will save your life by fleeing the battlefield, then my advice is that you do better to die in the battle. For a respectable man like you, ill fame is worse than death. So if you should not flee for fear of your life, better to die in the battle. That will save you from the ill fame of misusing my friendship and from losing your prestige in society. So Krishna is the chariot driver of Arjuna. He basically gave all his soldiers to the opposite side so he could help serve his devotee, and now his devotee was going to run away and not follow his instructions. It was really, it wouldn't look good at all by anybody, by great sages or anyone. He would seem like a coward and be completely rejected by everyone. So, Arjuna, he was a great devotee of Krishna. Very pious, an amazing warrior, very learned, had the incredible reputation of defeating demigods in battles and demons, and but all these things would have been thrown out by making this decision. So the final judgment of the Lord was Arjuna to die in the battle and not withdraw. So he's just basically telling him that. And we'll continue this per chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized next time. Thank you very much. Haribol.